Hey guys, there has been some breaking news. Stacey just gave me the story. I'm gonna put this at the beginning of this video. If you're here just to hear about the Chinese spy balloon, hang on through the rest of the video because there's a lot of things happening besides these other distractions that our government's not gonna do anything about. This is nutty. The U.S. military is tracking another high-altitude balloon that has crossed over Hawaii coast and is now heading towards Mexico. They spotted this by the newly established parameters for monitoring U.S. airspace. Now, the Department of Defense says the balloon is unmanned and its ownership remains unknown. They first saw it April 28th, and it was floating at about 36,000 feet. These observations have led Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin to agree with his military commanders, and this is astonishing. No action need to be taken against the balloon. It's not hurting anybody, I guess. The department said the balloon has now moved out of Hawaii space and that it will continue to track its path. Now, this revelation marks the latest balloon overture after the Chinese spy balloon traveled for more than a week across the United States, passing over a number of military sites, Air Force bases, and then a fighter jet shot it down. But we're not going to shoot this one down for some reason, unknown reason. Both are a part of Chinese regime's, now listen to this, global military surveillance program that has conducted operations in more than 40 countries across 5 continents, the U.S. official said. The White House press secretary referred questions to the Department of Defense. Nobody wants to talk about stuff like this. The U.S. government claims that it had successfully protected American interest against the balloon's intelligence program. So Big Brother's got our back. The Pentagon spokesperson refused to confirm the report at the time, saying whether the real-time transmission had happened or it's just something we're analyzing right now. So that's the news. I don't even want to speculate on it. If there's a balloon, we don't know where it came from at 36,000 feet, why don't we just get rid of it? Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we've got a lot of news to cover. We're going to start off at the chicken coop. We're going to walk through the garden, possibly around the pond, and maybe to the orchard because there's a bunch of the news to cover. If you're a content creator and you have news to talk about, there's no shortage of that. Before we get into it, would you do me a favor and hit the like button, subscribe if you like this kind of content, and ring the bell, because that's kind of like a text message I could send if something was to go down and you needed to know. That's a really good way for you not to miss it. And check, because a lot of people have been unsubscribed, and I mean several times lately. The truth is not welcome. I've got some tomatoes planted. I got my drip irrigation set up and ready to go as we walk through the garden. The first thing I want to talk about is California and what they're doing with diesel trucks. They want to absolutely ban diesel trucks by 2036. They already want to ban all combustible vehicles by 2035. And, you know, the manufacturers of these vehicles say this is impossible. And it is. So just one more plan from the communist state of California to move towards the almighty God ESGism. They're a worshipful master. Next, we've got Harley Davidson. We knew this was going to happen. Harley Davidson is running out of people to repo the motorcycles. It's that bad where Harley doesn't have enough manpower to do all the repos. That is wild. There's going to be some sales on Harleys, and there probably already is. Let me know in the comments if there is right now or not. It makes sense if you think about it, because I know a lot of people with some really expensive motorcycles that kind of live outside their means. You know, it's nothing to pass a single wide trailer with $70,000 worth of Harley sitting outside of it in the rain. It's just, you know, it comes to me as being expected. The pond is still down. I accidentally let some of the water out through the siphon pipe. I'll show you that when we get over there. There's a little frog. These banks are still getting hammered. Morgan Stanley just announced they're going to cut 3,000 more employees. And there is the economic tree of doom. You see the liquidity around it? That tree resembles the economy that's dying, suffocating under all the liquidity. It's going to take it a while to die. I've got another tree analogy up here I'll show you. But we'll watch it and see about how long it takes. Maybe it'll be the same time the economy does. Maybe they got a couple more years left in them. I have underestimated the Fed for so long, there's just no telling what they can do. But it does seem like the monetary duct tape is coming off. There is more banks failing other than Morgan Stanley, but real quick, I want to read to you what they're saying. This downsizing would equate to roughly 5% reduction in workforce. But this excludes the financial advisors and their support staff and wealth management. If they got to have those guys to tell everybody what to do with their money. Morgan Stanley profit tumbled in the first quarter from a year ago, mostly pulled down by a steep decline in deal making. That is the same thing the lady at the bank told me. She said she was having a hard time making deals, getting loans. And when this stops, that's less money that's going to be created and put in the economy. That's less dollars. That's how money is made. When you go get a loan, they whip up the money, and that's how it's made. But, that's not what they're doing. They're cutting interest rates. They're slowing things down, and it is really working, and the banks are starting to see it first. Now, this news comes on the heels of the announcement they made in December when Morgan Stanley cut 1,600 jobs. Now, keep in mind, this massive bank has over 82,000 employees, 5%. But we're just getting started. There's another analogy. I have been burning that timber off since I moved here. Once a year, I set the underbrush on fire, and look how clean it is. The little trees that don't get enough sunlight, that aren't productive, are dying off. And the underbrush stays cleaned out. Every now and then, this needs to happen in the economy. It's the same difference. But when you have crony capitalism, it just gets worse. The underbrush gets so big, when it finally does burn off, it kills all the big trees too. Morgan Stanley eliminated 3,200 jobs back in January. And Lazard just announced last week they're going to cut 10% of their workforce. And this is what they say. Investment banks are expected to reduce their workforce as the threat of recession looms. We just heard Jerome Powell. He got pranked by some Russians pretending to be Zelensky, and he came right out in the open and said, a recession is likely. That is the Fed chair telling you the recession is likely. If they say it's likely, it's already here. When they start talking about a depression, it'll already be here. We'll more than likely be coming out of it. They're not going to tell you until it's too late. So it's just par for the course. Jamie Diamond, the CEO of JPMorgan. If you're not familiar with him, he's one of the party members. And if you don't know what a party member is, you should check out the book George Orwell, 1984. It's fresh on my mind, so just got through it. But he says the system is very, very sound. There's nothing to worry about. After the second largest bank failure in history happens, the CEO of a bank that holds over 10% of Americans' deposits. This is a quote from himself. We need large, successful banks in the largest economy. This is nothing like 08 or 09. This is getting near the end of it. Very optimistic. Now, this is just on the heels of the news that came out of the Wall Street Journal yesterday. The U.S. fire sale of 300 million San Francisco office towers, mostly empty, open to offers. 350 California Street was worth $300 million 4 years ago. It might sell for 80% less now. Brokers say in a market where office vacancy rates have soared, these commercial real estate's in trouble. This is also another story. There's tons of news about this, guys. Don't miss it. They're calling it the big CRE short, commercial real estate short. Due to rising rates, which make it challenging for owners of these properties to refinance the hundreds of billions, the liquidity problem, if not trillions, in the debt coming due over the next several years. Now, Vornado Realty Trust, they own offices, retail real estate, residential buildings, slid 13% in pre-market trading, hit a 27-year low. Look at this. Look at that chart. Can you see it? Because I can't see it. That's the GFC, and that's now. We're in the descent to the Thunderdome. In a recent shareholder letter, Vornado Chairman, Chief Executive Officer, he says, quote, "We are now approaching the eye of the economic storm, and I expect it'll even get worse." Kyle Bass, the founder of Dallas-based Heyman Capital Management, explained office buildings in big cities need to be demolished because pre-pandemic demand is never returning. I can't read this morning, sorry. Instead of towers, we must convert them into apartments. Quote, "It's one asset class that just has to get redone, and redone by meaning demolished." So there's some real trouble coming. Now I want to get into, I'm probably going to have to sit down because I kind of like to use my hands to talk, but I want to get into how you're going to pay for this. I'm going to pay for it. How does this work? Where does the liquidity come from? Well, spoiler alert, it comes from us. I almost forgot to show you the siphon pipe. I walked right past it. So that white pipe goes all the way to the bottom of the pond. There's a cap on the top, and there's a cap on the bottom. Well, there's not supposed to be a cap on the bottom, but there is. It's gone now. I just took it off. I didn't know there was one on there. I put the top cap on because I wanted it to pull a harder siphon because we had a bunch of rain. The other end of that 4-inch pipe is down there, at the end of the shooting range. So went to bed, thought I was doing a good thing, came out, looked at the pond 2 days later, and it was about 3 foot low. So, lesson learned, don't be messing with a siphon pipe. Now let's go to the doc and cover how they're going to steal our money. Yesterday I was in my gym, I was working out, and I was listening to Mike Maloney. He's dyslexic, and I understand him very well. So I'd encourage anybody to listen to him. He's got a great, what is it, like an 8-part series? I can't remember, Hidden Secrets of Money. Watch the whole playlist, it is excellent. But he was saying, what's already happening to real estate? What's going on with it? So I was listening because I'm interested. And he took it back to the GFC, and that was back in 2008. Real estate peak was about 220% overvalued when inflation adjusted to compare to the rest of the economy. Real estate had to go down by more than half. I'd say he nailed that one. And where do they get this money to do these bailouts? Where does the FDIC get their money to give to Jamie Diamond's bottom line? Because that's exactly where it goes. Straight, unadulterated cash to the central bank, the big bank. Now, we know this, and we know who it comes from. It comes from the end consumer. It comes from us through banking services and all this other stuff. We're going to pay for it. But the FDIC, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, estimated this fund would take a hit of $13 billion. In the deal at JPMorgan also said it would receive $50 billion in financing from the FDIC, straight from us. Every bank has to pay FDIC insurance, so it raises its cost of banking. And we get to pay for that. Jamie Diamond said, and I'll leave you with this, they support community banks. JPMorgan support community banks, and that the banks will consolidate, so we support them. They're going to chew them up, they're going to eat them, just like they did First Republic Bank. And they're going to get that much bigger. And they're going to have the government to backstop them. Us. It's unreal, really. It's the system is broken, and we're going to expose it at every end. Guys, hit the like button, subscribe, and ring the bell if you like this kind of content. And above all, have an awesome, awesome day. I'll see you in the next one. Later.